Earlier this year, I had the chance to move back to Tokyo for a month and a half. Now, this was not all vacation, I was also working. So in this video, I will show you what that experience looked like over there. 10 years ago, I was living in Tokyo, but that feels like a completely different life than now. I'm at a very different stage, both in my personal and professional life. Right now, I am living in Copenhagen, and I work as a product marketer at a mid-sized tech software company that serves professional photographers and their teams. If you are wondering what tasks I actually do back in Copenhagen, you can check out this video. But let's go back to Tokyo. My remote work rotated between a co-working space, a cafe, the tatami room at home, and visiting some of my contacts in the photo/creative industry. Let's check out the co-working space first. In Copenhagen, I just ride my bike to work. But in Tokyo, my commute consisted of biking, taking the train, and a bit of walking as well. So a short bike ride to my local station, parking the bike, and getting on the train, which is packed. But it's only a handful of stops, so it's not a problem. Also, I love this view, so I'm always very happy to check this out. Then get off the train, melt into the crowd, get out of the station, and my co-working space was like 5 minutes walking away from here. Now I'm just taking you on the scenic route through Shibuya, which never gets old for me. The co-working space is a part of a small hotel, and it was essentially just one big-ish room with different types of seating, a couple of booths for calls, and a small kitchenette with tea and filtered water. I really loved this big window in this space here. It was super nice to look away from the screen a little bit and just check out what is happening outside. Oh, and they also had a balcony which, you could just walk out for a bit of fresh air. I was here from usually around 9 AM until 2-3 in the afternoon. And while this was a bit lonely, having everyone from my team being asleep, it was also extremely productive. I could reply to all my emails and messages without interruptions, and then move on to my other daily tasks. I got a multiple entry ticket to this place, which made a day being here cost around 2,000 yen or so. I usually finished up around 2 or 3, packed up my stuff, and took this little bit less than scenic hole-in-the-wall subway entrance to get back on the train. Then I picked up my bike, and then I went past my local temple and got home. I usually took some time off to do some human things in the afternoon for a few hours, then went to the tatami room after dinner when my team started to wake up. This was the not so ideal part of the day, when I usually took calls and such until 10 PM on some nights. But I was working away during a specifically busy period, so this was a personal trade-off that I made to be able to work from Tokyo. I also worked quite a bit in cafes. They are usually just a short bike ride away from me. Then I parked my bike semi-legally and entered this fairly unknown chain establishment that you might have heard of. I usually did shorter days here, maybe 4 to 5 hours of focus time. Then I packed up my stuff and repeated the same afternoon and evening schedule I just showed you. Starbucks has been having plant-based donuts for a while now in Japan, so I also made sure to take advantage of that as often as I could. There are a lot of people doing the same thing, not just eating donuts, but also working out of cafes. To the point where my location had a sign put up saying asking customers not to stay too long during busy periods. So I tried to be respectful of that, and I banged out my daily tasks as fast as possible, and then I just left. Lastly, the most fun part was meeting some of my local contacts here. Working in the photo industry, I get to talk to some really interesting people who work on some amazing projects in fantastic locations. But these meetings can often be fairly intimidating. Due to my job being close to the product side of things, I'm often finding myself in a room with people who have spent 10+ years working with our software, and sometimes I simply cannot match them on product knowledge. I always spend an hour or so writing up a few questions and some topics that I want to cover beforehand. When I prep for these meetings, I use assets from the Product Marketing Alliance. They have a lot of materials around user research, customer profiles, personas, and I can handpick some of these questions from their courses that I incorporate into these meetings. They help me identify key insights that I can bring back to my product managers or the other teams that I am working with. As I mentioned earlier, I might not be able to meet these customers on product knowledge, but with the right approach to these interviews and help from the pre-MA materials, I can make sure that I walk away from these sessions with plenty of important findings. If you're interested in this type of work, I will leave a link in the description below. I highly recommend you to check out their courses, and you also get 10% off of them. Alright, let me show you how these sessions went in Tokyo. I met with some writers who work on some important publications in the industry. I got to visit the biggest production agency which had an amazing studio building setup for insane workflows. They have actually several buildings, and the one that I got to go to has around 9 studios in different sizes with full-on kitchens and just a crazy setup in general. They had a massive library, a huge amount of storage for all their props and whatnot that they use, and from this location they shoot a whole bunch of different things. Gigantic campaigns for national brands, photographing idols and beer and food and whatnot. The amount of work that they do is absolutely astonishing. And I also got to see an Unreal Studio by Pure Luck, which is also super interesting to see. Unfortunately, I cannot show you much of these due to the studios working on projects that fall under NDAs or working on products that are not out yet, but it was very nice to see where these people work, and it's always amazing for me to be able to see places like this. Obviously, the photo industry, my industry, is absolutely huge in Japan, so it is a real treat to be able to do these meetings and connect with people in it. So I've been thinking to myself about this experience, that would I want to work remotely a lot more? And the answer is I think probably not, especially when my teams are 6 to 7 hours behind me. But I feel extremely lucky to be able to work away from home occasionally, and so happy to maintain some relationships wherever I'm in Tokyo. I have a few more videos coming up from my stay in Japan, so if you wanted to watch those, maybe you could subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!